皆さん明けましておめでとうございます。トゥリーアンドノーフの徳本です。昨日ちょっとね鳥取は地震があったんですが、わりかし揺れたんですが、特に我々の農場は大きな被害なくですね、どうにか大丈夫でございます。いろいろと全国の農家仲間からですね心配のメッセージいただきありがとうございます。今年ね一発目のこのトゥリーアンドノーフチャンネルの動画はですね、このブラジルのですねある大物農業経営者との対談動画をですねお送りしたいと思っています。でその大物経営者、彼の名はですねアントニオ・カブレラと言いましてですね、なんと6万ヘクタールの農場を経営している経営者であります。しかもさらにですね、元ブラジルの農業大臣も経験しておりですね、ブラジル農業界では非常に大物の一人であります。で彼との対談動画をちょっと今回お送りしようと思ってるんですが、もともとこの対談動画はですね、私が理事長を務めます日本バイオ作物ネットワークのメンバー限定の動画で撮影をさせていただいたんですが、このメンバーからもですね、この動画の内容は非常に重要だからやっぱりより多くの人に見てもらった方がいいという声を多く寄せられたのと、何よりこのアントニオ本人からですね、この我々のそのブラジルでやってる農業の取り組みはですね、ぜひ日本の多くの農業関係者に見てほしいんだっていうメッセージをいただいたので、今回このトゥリーアンドノーフチャンネルでもですね、皆さんにね公開することにしました。テーマはですね、この、日本バイオ作物ネットワークが、掲げている通り、このバイテク農業の社会実装において、ブラジル農業は世界的にも非常に先進地です。で彼の農場はいろいろと先進的な取り組みしてるんですが、一つ驚くべきことにですね、全部その自社で作った作物からですねバイオディーゼルを作って、その6万ヘクタールの農場を管理する全ての機械、このジョン・ディアのどでかいやつとかたくさん持ってるんですけど、それらを全てバイオディーゼルで動かしているということを実現したとんでもない農業経営者です。でその実際の実践をしている、農業経営の生の声と、あとはブラジル農業はこれまでその遺伝子組み換え作物が世界的にも結構早い時期から導入してですね、不耕起農業を大規模に展開してるんですが、その歴史からですね、その今日に至るですね、そのバイオテクノロジー農業がですね、いかにこのブラジル農業に大きな貢献とですね、可能性をもたらしているか、このあたりのですね、非常にリアルな貴重なインタビューになっておりますのでですね、この新年一発目にふさわしい内容だと思いますので、ぜひご覧いただければと思います。
Can we start, Sushi?
Yes, let's start.
Yes. Could you see my presentation now?
Yes, clearly. Good.
Okay. I'm showing Brazil, land of biofuels. Are you seeing this one?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Then, first of all, I would like to thank you to Sushi to invite me to talk about the Brazilian agriculture, about biofuels, and how we are making a very nice, sustainable agriculture here in Brazil. As we know, we are a tropical country. Then I'm trying to show what we are doing here in Brazil about this. And the first slide, maybe this is the right denomination of the Brazilian agriculture. You can call Brazil the land of biofuels because we are working very hard in biofuels. Then I am trying to show in the next slides something about our history of the biofuel. First, I'm just giving some numbers of the energy matrix in Brazil and the world. As you can see, this it was in 2017. Just to know, at that time, Brazil has 44.7% of renewable energy, and the world is less than 14%. As you know, we can see that we have a lot of biomass, around almost 30%, and the hydroelectric power point in the left circle, you can see 15%. If you plus biomass and hydroelectric power plant, we have around 44, almost 45%. But change Now we are in the better condition. Just to give one idea, today to 2025, we have almost 50% of our energy in Brazil is renewable. And if you can see on the left side, it was in 2022, it was 49%. Now 2025 is 50%. And the world is still with 13%, around 14%. Just to see another idea about the Brazilian electrical matrix, we have 87%. Then we are using a lot of, how can I say, renewable source in our energy, in our electrical and everything. But it's important to show that we are not just talking about biofuels. We think in Brazil, and I think every farmer in the world, we should produce as something like we call the 5 Fs. We should produce food, feed, fiber, fuel, and forest. Then it's the 5 Fs. No, food, feed, fiber, fuel, and forest that we are making the production. I think it's the same in Japan. It's important to tell to the society in general way, the people that doesn't live on the farmers, that we should produce this almost these things. It's really important, not the biofuel or the feed or something like this. This is really important about our ethanol program. This starts in 1925. As you see the picture on the left side, it was the first time that we are thinking about use. At that time, we call alcohol. Now we change the name, it's ethanol. Then it's, you can see the phrase over there, it was a tremendous struggle to obtain through a loan, an old four-cylinder Ford, in which those studies were first carried out. Then we have more than 100 years working with the ethanol. First, our ethanol came from sugarcane. Then this year, 1925, it's a very important, how can I say, remarks in the Brazilian history of the ethanol. And around the 1970, 1979, when you have the oil crisis, we increase the ethanol program because the oil, at that time, the price is going up very quickly. Then we trying to replace the gasoline using the ethanol. These are very important remarks, the dates in the program. And another remarks date is in 26, the year of this year on the right side, that we launched, we call the flex cars. As you see on the picture, you see written over there, total flex, which means we have a technology here in Brazil that our cars, we can use 100% gasoline, or we can use 100% ethanol. It's up to the consumer. Then when you stop a car here in the gas station, it's up to you. You can put 100% gasoline, or you can have a gasoline with ethanol, mix it, blend it, or you can use only 100% ethanol. Then the consumer stop in the gas station, he watch the price. What is cheaper? Oh, it's ethanol. Then you put 100% ethanol. You can see two pumps in the car. A green one is the ethanol, and the blue one is gasoline. Then it's an amazing switch, because here in Brazil, the Japanese cars like Toyota, Nissan, they use this technology. Then it means you can use this kind of technology in Brazil also. One thing, as my experience here, we using this kind of a program, it's we should put down the regulations. Many times the government, they are trying to interview in the market. It's not so good because they put a lot of bureaucracy. This is our racetrack every morning here in Brazil. When you wake up, you have a lot of work laws, taxes, regulations, environmental laws, license, and many things. This is our experience here in Brazil. Sometimes the government put a lot of law. You should be careful. In Japan, do not have the same, because this is we should have a lot of delays in the program when you have a lot of bureaucracies. No, this is important to change. And it's important that when as we are increasing our biofuels, we are not forgetting that we should produce the food also, because sometimes Some people said, "Oh, I am not in favor of the biofuels because when you are producing the biofuel, you are forgetting to produce food." No, it's opposite. We are increasing very quickly the production of the biofuels, but we are increasing also the production of the food. As you can see in this slide, the production of the grains. In 1999, we produced around 58 million tons of grains, and now we are producing more than 300 million tons. In the green part of the slide, you can see the use of lands. We are not increasing so much the use of lands, but we are increasing very quick the production, the total production, and which means we are increasing the production of food, grains, beef, and also we are increasing the production of the biofuels. We are not replacing, "Oh, you are forgotten to produce food." No, this is not true, as you show in the next slide. That which means it's important to tell to the people, and I think this is one tip for you in Japan for the Japan Biotechnical Networks, that behind every kilo of the proteins, it doesn't matter if the animal or it's a vegetable protein produces in Brazil or in Japan, there is a lot of technology, because there are many people, they say, "Oh, you don't have high technology in agriculture." Agriculture is, how can I say, a sector, they don't use a lot of technology. Technologies is in the big techs or something like this. No, we have a lot of new technology in the fields of our farms in Brazil, and I am sure in Japan also. We should tell this to the people, to the society in general way. Sometimes I was invited to speak, for example, in universities. I start my speech saying, "Oh, I work with technology." And sometimes the people say, "Oh, you work in Apple, you work in Starlink." Say, "No, I am a farmer." "Oh, you don't have technology." No, I have a lot of technology. This is something that I am trying to explain to these people. Which means this. It means that we have a biorefinery, not from the oil, but from, for example, here from the sugarcane or from the corn. Then we are producing our own fuel using our agriculture, our fields. This is the slide that I'm trying to show for you. This is a program, for example, that we have in Brazil. More than 90% of the Brazilian cars, they are running with the ethanol, just to give one idea. Then we are increasing now our green kerosene for aviation. We expect to use more than 7 billion liters until by 2037. We are increasing use the kerosene, green kerosene for aviation, and we are going up the addition of the ethanol. Nowadays, we have 30%. Our gasoline, we have 30% of the ethanol. Then it doesn't matter if you can put 100% of the gasoline in your car, you are using at least 30% of the ethanol because they are blended. And of course, we are increasing, as I told you, the production of the biofuels, but we don't forget that we have many countries that we are sending food. We are, for example, the biggest food supplier to China. We export soybean, poultry, corn to China. Then we should have both markets, the biofuel markets and the food markets, as you know. This is a very nice slide. You can see nowadays, Brazil, we are consuming more green biofuel than entire European Union. If you can take Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, the Nordic countries, we are consuming more biofuels, as you can see by this slide. Then we are really the land of the biofuels. Of course, the first one is nowadays is the United States, because they are using a lot of from corn, but we are almost in the same place using ethanol. But we don't have only ethanol, we also have biodiesel, as I will make some comments forward. This is really interesting. This is the last data that I have. The 50 most polluted cities in the world. From these 50 most polluted cities in the world, 25 are in India, 22 are in China, 2 are in Pakistan, and 1 is in Bangladesh. These are the worst cities to live in the world. And maybe 20, 30 years ago, we have many Brazilian cities in this place. But no, we don't have anymore. For example, São Paulo is one of the biggest cities, maybe almost like Tokyo. But the ranking of São Paulo is 1,476, the position. It's very far from the 50 most polluted cities. Because we change, when we start to use the biofuels, we take out the Brazilian cities from this place. Just to have an idea, São Paulo is the biggest city in Brazil, in the South America, more than 20 million inhabitants. But see the recommendation of the World Health Organization is below 25. São Paulo has 16. Why? Because we use a lot of the biofuels in our cars here. This is really interesting thing that I can show you the importance. And another thing is the evolution of the biofuel production in Brazil in millions of cubic meters from, you can see from this slide, from 1981 until 2021. We are increasing. The green bars is the ethanol from sugarcane. And in 27, we start to produce biofuel from corn, the ethanol from corn also. And the yellow one is the biodiesel. Biodiesel come from soybean. Then as you can see, we are increasing very quickly the production of the biofuels. If you see the right side, then the green one is come from sugarcane, the red one comes from ethanol, and the yellow comes from a soybean. It's the biodiesel. You can see it's a very, very huge production of the biofuels here in Brazil. It's interesting. Just the use of the ethanol from sugarcane, we are not putting here the ethanol from corn. We replace it 3.29 billion barrels of the gasoline, which means we are avoid to use the oil. And it's amazing numbers because we have till now proven reserves of oil in Brazil. We have 12.71 billion barrels. Then you can see when I can, how can I say, between this time, these years, 75 and 20, the volume of the gasoline repriced, it means 3.29 billion barrels. Then what we are doing right now in a current pace, we are an additional 164 million barrels are replaced every year. Then in 24 and 25, we are replacing 164 million barrels without need for new investments because ethanol is renewable. It operates through flow, not stocks, which means we are not extracting our oil from our barrels, from our reserves. We are producing the ethanol. And of course, we are avoiding foreign exchange savings. Between 1975 and 2020, the gasoline that replaced by ethanol, the value in the world market price generate foreign exchange savings of, just to give you an idea, 261 billion, excluding the avoided external debt cost, or just to give you an idea, 607 billion US dollars, including the avoided external debt, which means we are not sending money avoid to, for example, to Middle East to import oil, which means, just to give an idea, the Brazil's internal reserves, we have 351 billion US dollars. You could imagine if you are importing oil from Middle East or from someplace from overseas, we are avoiding to send money to them because we are producing here. Then again, we are not forgetting to send food. Just to give you an idea, this slide, we are showing how many countries we are exporting food. In 2023, we export to 29 countries and territories. We are sending food, for example, chicken. Nowadays, maybe a month ago, for example, we opened the beef in Japan. We are sending beef to Japan now, which means we are producing biofuels in Brazil, and we don't forget to send food. And nowadays, this is the last date for last year, allowing us to avoid plowing 42 million hectares when we are using no-till farms. The most part of biofuels in Brazil use the no-till farms, which means we don't plowing the lands. Nowadays, we are avoiding plowing 42 million hectares, a huge number that we are using. And just to give you an idea, we are a tropical country. I don't know, for example, nowadays I am in Rio Preto, in the middle part of the country. The temperature now is around 26, 27 degrees. I think in Tokyo now is maybe 10 or 12 degrees, which means we are an open factory of the photosynthesis. We are a very hot country. Just to give you an idea, the environment sustainability, the emissions of CO2 when you use, for example, no-till farm. This is emissions of CO2, the carbon. No, we have the equivalent term. For example, this is about the poultry industry. When you produce the poultry industry in Brazil, for example, the final products before the transport, our emission is 1.2 tons per our emissions. In England, it's 2.2. Then our emissions here in Brazil is really lower. And it's amazing. And we can produce the chicken here. We send this chicken to the United Kingdom shelves. When our chicken reach the supermarket there, the emission is 2.5 tons. But when they produce the same poultry in England, the emission is 2.8. Then it's amazing. We produce here, send there, and we are having more there. We are more sustainable than the production there. This is just to give one idea to you. Then, of course, we are talking about sustainability. Just to give you an idea, nowadays in Brazil, 66% of the country is a native forest, original forest. We are not destroying the Amazon or something like this. Sometimes you see on the market. And we have a I'm talking about the sustainability here, about the Brazilian agriculture. We have a very, how can I say, a very strict, a very hard environment law in Brazil. This is the first image that, for example, in Brazil, you cannot use the lands near the lakes or near the rivers. This is the lake of Itaipu. It's one of the biggest lake in Brazil. It's one of the most visited places in the Brazilian tourist place. We have a lot of foreigners visiting this lake, but you can see the agriculture inside, and between the agriculture and the border of the lake, you can see a forest, because we should preserve at least 100. It doesn't. It depends on the size of the river of the lake. Sometimes you should preserve 50 meters, 100 meters, or maybe 500 meters. But you can see the forest between the agriculture and in the lake. You cannot see this in the other countries. For example, in the right side is a big lake in Florida, in the United States. You can see the agriculture. They are using all the lands, including the lands near the lake. This is forbidden in Brazil, just to show how is sustainable the agriculture here in Brazil, a comparison between American agriculture and Brazilian agriculture. Another thing that we are using a lot here in Brazil is the biodiesel, as I told you. Nowadays, we have some farms here in Brazil, as this machine, this slide is showing, we are using 100% of the biodiesel. Then it's very important. According to the emissions by the GAG protocol, when you are using 100% of biodiesel, as you see in this slide, this is a harvest machine. On the back, you can see the soybean. Then this farm, we are producing our fuel. You know, it's amazing. I cannot import the fuel from outside. Then I am reducing 99% of the CO2 emissions. This is amazing numbers. And another thing, it's important, not about the environment sustainable, but economical sustainable, Suichi. Just to give you an idea, the movement that the fuel can make in the economy. For example, when I use 1 liter of the diesel comes from oil, I am add 0.5 reais. Reais is our currency nowadays in Brazil in our GDP. But when I am using biodiesel, for example, when I use 1 liter of the biodiesel, I am added to our GDP 7 reais. You know, it's 14 times bigger the movement of the economy, because I should buy fertilizers for the soybean. I have workers to use. Then I am how can I say, add more money to our GDP when I am using the biofuels. These are really important numbers that we have here in Brazil. Then what we have here in Brazil, we have the ethanol from sugarcane or from corn to our cars. We have some kind of biodiesel for trucks. We have some biodiesel for heavy machines like tractors, combines, for public or private transportation, bus, and so on. And we have also the SAF, Special Aviation Fuel. Brazil has nowadays the biggest aviation fleet using ethanol. We have more than 2,800 airplanes, agricultural airplanes in our farms. We use ethanol. We don't use gasoline or kerosene, just to give one idea. We are already using this kind of thing. This is really interesting. The comparison, according to GAG protocol, the emissions using our cars. For example, on the left side, the first barrel, you can see a car using gasoline. A normal car, it's a median around the world. The emission is 145 per kilometers. This is in general way. And then you have many type of cars. For example, you have the electrical car in the middle, in the purple one. The number is 92. You see the emissions per kilometers. But when I'm using the flex car, if you see on the right side, I'm using the emissions per kilometers, it's 58. But now we have the hybrid ethanol, which means we don't have just an electrical car. We make the electrification of the car using the ethanol. Then you can combine ethanol with electrical car. This is the cleanest car in the world. As you see on the right side, the emission is just 29. And you know, I am so happy here to talk with to Japan, Suichi, because Toyota, for example, has this kind of car here in Brazil. The emission is 29. The Toyota car and the Mitsubishi car here in Brazil, they are the cleanest car in the world when I'm talking about the emissions. And they are Japanese car. And I think Japan and Brazil have a lot of work to do in our hands about this. And there are something very nice about the future. Then we can talk about the people living on the city. How can our agriculture, our farms here or in Brazil, we can help environment? Just to give you an idea, 70% of the fibers used in the textile industry, they are synthetic. You cannot imagine, for example, the pollution, the plastic pollution around the world. You don't think about the clothes, but 70% of the clothes, the shirts, the pants that the world are using now, 70% they are plastics, they are polyester, they are plastics. Then we should change in this. The consumers do not associate the petroleum with the clothes that they are using. It's a very huge market. They also don't associate plastic with clothing. Then it's important to tell about this. And in Brazil, our production, for example, of the cotton, 70% is not in the world is irrigate, but in Brazil we don't use irrigation for producing cotton because we have enough production. Then we should have this is a future. You know, for example, I can show that if you are worried about the pollution of plastics around the world, you should not use synthetic fibers, synthetic clothes. you should use the natural fiber, which means you should use a cotton. This is just to give how we have many fields to explore in the future about sustainability, about our agriculture. And again, we are not forgetting about to produce food. This is some kind of products that Brazil is the biggest exporter in the world. As you see from the left to the right, we are the biggest exporter of orange juice. We export around 74% of the orange juice around the world, 51% of sugar, coffee, soybean, chicken, beef, corn, and pulp for make papers. Then this is the number. We are the biggest exporter, and sometimes we are the biggest producer also. Then which means we have a very large biofuel programs, but we are still producing food for the world. And another thing that's really interesting, Suishi, some adoption of sustainable practices in Brazil. Brazil is ahead, having the highest participation. This is some kind of sustainable practice adoption. For example, no-till farms. In average, we are using 83% of the Brazilian farms, we use no-till farm. For example, Sushi, I am so surprised. Yesterday, I came from Illinois, from the United States. I have a daughter working there. I was visiting my daughter there. And I was so surprised because Illinois is the biggest soybean producer in the United States, but they have only 27% of no-till farms. The biggest soybean producer here in Brazil is Mato Grosso, that Suichi had visited Mato Grosso. And Mato Grosso is around more than 90% no-till farming. They'll cover crops, you can see controlled residue, stabilized fertilizers, variable rate fertilizers. Brazil, we are is ahead for all over the country. It's amazing numbers that you can see. And not only this, we have a lot of farmers adopting or willing to adopt the biologicals. Brazil is also leading the way. For example, if you can see here the biocontrols adoption, around 50, more than half of the Brazilian farms, we already adopted biocontrols. Biostimulants, for example, adoption also more than 50% of the Brazilian farmers. And now we are starting using the biofertilizers. As you know, the World Food Prize this year, it was a Brazilian research woman because he works in this side, the adoption of the biofertilizers. This is some numbers that I can share with you just to show how we are leading this process, trying to show this. Then it's important when we are talking about this. We can use this expression. We should regenerate in rural activity, which means regeneration. We should make the production different way. Then it's important because sometimes we have a very old farmers. No, my grandfather makes this, produces in this way. My father, I cannot change. It's important to open the minds that we can change the situation. And what is the regen agriculture? What is the regenerative agriculture for us as a Brazilian farmers? This is for me, Suichi, the best definition. It's being the most efficient with the lowest environment impact. I don't know, I'm talking about Brazil. I don't know how is the situation in Japan, but I think it's the same. The Japanese farm, he should be most efficient with the lowest environment impact. This is the regenerative agriculture that I can share with you here. But the farmer is the central player in this history, because sometimes you say, no, the government, you do this, the agriculture minister, all these institutions, they are important. But the central player in this history, changing from classic agriculture for the regenerative agriculture, is the farm. It's important to have the farm in your side. It's important the farmer knows, oh, this is important. I really want to have this kind of things. Then it's really important to have something like this. For farm, and what I'm talking here is not only about Brazil. This is for farmers around the world. It doesn't matter if in Asia, in Japan, or in Africa, for different crops in different regions. It's a different size of production. But I am not a big farmer, a very, very small farmer. It doesn't matter what the size of your production area. It doesn't matter. This thing, no-till farm, this kind of technology you can use in different regions, different size of productions as we have here in Brazil. And this is the better response for social environment crisis, the regen agriculture. And it's not organic farm. I'm not talking about organic farm. It's important to have a different concept about this. Of course, I'm not against organic farm, but I'm talking about something different when I'm talking about regenerative agriculture. And of course, I'm not talking about zero net carbon, because sometimes some people said, oh, we should have a zero carbon. It's impossible because the carbon is life. I think the best definition is a low carbon agriculture. We should have a low carbon agriculture, not zero carbon. It is impossible because sometimes I'm in a very important meeting in Congress. Oh, we should have, our goal is to have a zero carbon. It was impossible. This is how can I say, a very nice goal to achieve is a low carbon agriculture. And finally, this is my last slide, Suichi. 2 days ago, we have the COP30 finished yesterday here in Brazil. The COP30, it was about the environment meeting. It's a very important meeting. All the country was here. And we just launched the day before yesterday, the Belém. Belém is the name of the city that we have the COP30 here in Brazil, is a capital of the Pará states in the north part of Brazil. And we have the Belém's commitments to sustainable fuels. Many countries signed this proposal. What means this proposal? This proposal is to quadruple the production and use of sustainable fuels by 2035, which means this country, it was signed by 25 countries. The commitment is to increase the biofuel and use of the biofuels 4 times. 4 times these 25 countries, they committed to use this. And for me, I'm so happy because one of the countries that signed this document, it was India, it was Italy, Canada, and Japan. Japan signed this. Then when I'm talking today with you, it's really important to know that Brazil and Japan, they are both countries commitment to increase the use and the production of the biofuels. Then it's a good time that we have this kind of presentation, and I think your organization, Suichi, can help to put this going up very quickly. Then this is my last slide. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to show something about the Brazilian agriculture here, Suichi. Thank you.
Bravo! Bravo, Antonio.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Antonio. Your practice and your perspective and your passion, everything impressed for me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Very amazing presentation. Okay.
I am interrupting congratulations, okay? I have sent the presentation to you because it's better than we stay here.
Okay, thank you. All right, John. Next, we are talking discussions about each other countries farming. Okay. まず、さっきのプレゼンテーションの冒頭にもあった通り、僕はそのブラジルがここまでそのバイオディーゼルで政策も含めて現場もここまで進化していることに驚きましたと。でもあなたが言ってたようにそこにはいろんなレギュレーション、いろんな関係者をやっぱり説得して動かさないといけない様々な課題があったと思いますが、なぜここまでこのブラジルはですね、このバイオディーゼルの政策が進んだんでしょうか。一番の要因というか、その辺のポイントを教えてください。
Yes. As I told you, in 1979, 1978, we have the oil crisis. When the price of the oil, we have the Yom Kippur war in the Middle East, and the price of the oil goes up very quickly at that time. Then the Brazilian government said, "Oh, you cannot import any more oil. We should have our own fuel." Then, of course, Brazil, at that time, we didn't have petroleum reserves of oil. Then we start the ethanol programs. We have already the program, but we start the ethanol program. Then it was a very important, the price of the crisis of the oil increasing very quick, the use of the ethanol in Brazil. Then we start the program. And with this, it's important, this tip that I'm giving now, how can I say, the organization of the farmers. Because the government, sometimes they are in the capital, they are very far from the farmers, they don't know how to produce, how have some different way to produce. Then it was important during these times, the farmers organizations, we have a very strong farmers organization here in Brazil. And sometimes we are fighting a good way with the government to have low regulations, to have good practices, because, for example, nowadays we are fighting because the government, they are trying to increase the tax in the ethanol. Then, for example, I went to United States last week. I spent 1 week there to show to our government. For example, in the United States, the ethanol, they are free of tax, no tax in the ethanol there. Now in Brazil, we are paying 20%. They are trying to increase to 25%. Then we are fighting against it. Then it's important, if Japan wants to start your biofuel programs, it's important to have a very strong farmers organizations, because they know how to produce, they know how it's important, no tax, or I don't know, maybe some other things that you can put down there.
ありがとうございます。続いてですが、さっきアントニオのプレゼンの中で、ノーティルファーミング、もしくはローティルですね、ローティル。ファーミングが、非常にその環境保全に貢献しているという説明がありました。これは一つは、具体的にはその除草剤耐性の遺伝子組み換え作物の普及が、やっぱりブラジルは大豆やトウモロコシはかなり広がった背景があると思います。この遺伝子組み換え作物がやっぱり実際広がったことによって環境負荷がやっぱり非常に下がったっていうのは、これはやはり現実としてありますでしょうか。
It's important. For example, for us now, it's not about, of course, the environment question, it's really important. But not only the environment question, but the financial question, the economic question now. Why? Because the no-till farm is cheaper for us than the classic way. Then for us, it's we have how can I say, I can earn more money using no-till farm. This is really important to convince the farmers to use the no-till farms. I think in Japan it will be the same. With the Japan Biotech Crop Network, the Swiss organization, I think one of the main topics that you should work in Japan is to show that the production using the no-till system is cheaper than the classic agricultural way. This is one point. And the second point, it's really important that I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain now. The world, as we see this week during the COP30, they are worried about the emissions of the gases of CO2, the carbon, and so on. Every country, Japan is worried and something like this. And it's important to know when you are using the no-till farm, the emissions of the carbon is less. And this is the first point. Then if you are trying to look for some lower emissions, you should use no-till farm. This is the first point. And now I'm trying to tell something very new. All the world, they are worried, as I told you, about the emissions. But now in Brazil, we are making a new research. It's a very, very, very new research. We are talking about, how can I say, capturing of the carbon. Not only about the emissions, but how can I catch the carbon in the nature or in the air and put on the soil. And we are discovering the no-till farm is amazing numbers about this. For example, when we are using the no-till farm, I am catching the carbon on the air and put the carbon on the soil. And we have some numbers in many farmers. I'm talking about academic research in university. I'm not talking about just a farmer opinion. This is academic research. The research that had 1 year, 1.5 years, is a very amazing numbers. We have some some fields of no-till farms. They are capturing more carbon than in a forest. Then it's amazing numbers about the environment for the future. This is a new, how can I say, matters that we are working here in Brazil. I don't know if I'm clear to you. I'm not talking about just the emissions, but I'm talking ahead. I'm talking about low emission, but I'm also talking about how can I capture this carbon, these emissions. We are using more than 90% of the GMO organism in Brazil. For example, in soybean is around 95%, in corn is 92%. More than 90% of our crops, they are GMO now in Brazil. They are amazing because for example, when I am using GMO in soybeans, I'm using around 40% less pesticide. You know, the use of pesticides in soybeans is around 40%. In corn is 38%. When I use GMO, I'm not using. Of course, there are some farms they are still using classical soybean because there are some kind of market they require not GMO. Okay, we have this kind of market, but more than 90% we are GMO here in Brazil.
ありがとうございます。この GM 作物において、やっぱり実はまだ日本では、やっぱり非常に反発も多くて、日本では現実的に今栽培ができないと。で、この僕が日本バイオ作物ネットワークを立ち上げた目的の一つとしては、まさにこういう世界で実際に、アントニオのように、その GM 作物を作っている、ちゃんとリアルな声を届けるっていうこともすごく重視していると。で、ブラジルで、でも実際その GM 作物が栽培されるときに、そういう社会的なその反対とか反発はなかったんでしょうかと。またそれらをどうやって、克服して、今これだけ広がりを見せているのか、この GM 作物について。
Oh, yes. It's a good question. Really, I am so surprised. First, I didn't know that in Japan you cannot use GMO. Because it's so, I have some kind of image from Japan. It's a very developed country. You have a very nice technology. You have very big companies. Then I'm talking about science. I think the biggest expression of the days that we are living today is follow the science. And the science said no problem with GMO. It's important to know this. We have many studies, we have many research, no problem at all in any kind of GMO in Brazil, United States, and many countries. And around the world, it's if you take soybean, corn, many products, they are using GMO. But about here in Brazil, I am telling history for you. It was how can I say? It was a really farmer fighting to use the GMO because 20 years ago it was forbidden also to use GMO here. It was really forbidden. At that time, I was Minister of Agriculture, and it was funny because the Brazilian farmers, they heard something about GMO, etc. We should try this one, but it was forbidden. Then how can I say? I don't know the expression in the smuggling. You know, smuggling when it's illegal. For example, it's forbidden to bring some product in Brazil, in our country. But the Brazilian farms, they went to Argentina and smuggling. They bring as illegal some seeds of soybean and starts to planting in the south part of Brazil. They would like to try this one. At that time, I was minister, and when discovered that it was a soybean GMO, it was a scandal here in Brazil. Many, the newspaper and the TV, and one judge here said the media should be there and how can I say, put fire in these GMO plantations. It was a very big scandal. I was there and talked with the farmer. I said, no, this is better for us. Low cost production is better for the environment. And how can I say, I didn't put the fire in that field. And the judge almost trying to put me on the jail because I was forbidding, I was obliged to put the fire in that. It was a very big fighting against this. It was funny. I don't know, because we are a football country. Then we bring that soybean seeds illegal, and we don't have the name or what kind of breed, what was that seed, and we call one of the very famous football player in Argentina at that time. It was Maradona, like Pelé here in Brazil. Then we call this soybean Maradona soybean because we didn't have the name of it. It was illegal, no name for this. Oh, I am planting Maradona soybean because it was illegal. Then how can I say the introduction of the GMO in Brazil? It was like a illegal fighting from the farmers against the government. We fight for 9 years, and at least in the 10 years later, the government accept the GMO. It was 20 years ago, this one, but it is interesting history because it's a fighting from the farmers to know, because I all the time I say, as a farmer, who pay my bills? Who pay my bills is my farm. My farm pay my health cost, pay the bill of my house, pay the bill of the college of my children's. Then why I am destroying my farm if is this farm pay my bills? Then nobody knows the better for the farmers, for the lands, for the environment than the farmer. Then this is the idea that we're trying to show to the government. Take to the farmer, as Norman Borlaug, the Nobel Prize, said. Then the farmer knows better for the farmer than a bureaucracy in the office and something like this. Then with the farmers, this kind of fighting, it was allowed to introduce the GMO here in Brazil.
Wow, great example ですね。あと質問を2つかぐらいで、考えてますと、ちょっとクイックな質問なんですけど、さっきプレゼンで、アントニオの補助はバイオディーゼルがもう 100% ってありましたよね、さっきね。言ってましたよね。
So two questions.
さっきバイオディ 100% っていうことで、要はもうそのバイオディーゼルで 100% トラクターとかコンバインを回してるっていう理解でいたんですけど、これはすごいことだと思うんですけど、これはアントニオの農場が突出してるんですかね、その事例としては。結構他の農家でもどんどん比率が上がってるのかっていうことと、シュガーケーンがメインの原料だと思うんですけど、このシュガーケーンでもその GM のシュガーケーンがね、害虫抵抗性が今広がってきてるって聞いてるんですが、シュガーケーンも GM がやっぱり広がってきてるんですかっていう、ちょっとクイックな質問ですね。はい。
100% is a special farm. It's not common here in Brazil, but we are increasing very quickly this number. Nowadays, we have at least 15%, 15% of our diesel comes from biodiesel, okay? And every year we are increasing 1%, which means today, 2025 is 15%. Next year will be 16%. The next 17 will be, then we are increasing 1% per year, which means in 2025 we have 25% using biodiesel, at least. We are trying to increase quickly, but until now it was not possible. But we have farmers using 30%, 50%. It depends on the region and about the farmer also.
ちなみに、そのバイオディーゼルのプラントもアントニオが持ってるんですかね、製造するプラントもその農場が所有してるんですかね。
No, I send my soybean to one factory. They produce the soybean and give me the oil for me, the diesel for me. Then we have many biodiesel factories here, and they receive the soybean from the farmers. They make the diesel and come back to the farmers. Just to give one information, last month we start one operation, one farm using 100% of the biodiesel from soybean, the combines, the tractors, all the farms using biodiesel. They produce the soybean. Then we loaded that soybean in a trucks, these trucks using 100% of the soybeans. Transport the soybean from the farms to the ports on the sea. And on the rivers, we have the barges, also the boats, the machines using 100% of the biodiesel. Then it's 100% the logistic using the biodiesel. Last month we did this operation here in Brazil. The sugarcane, it was the last GMO authorization in Brazil. Then we don't have a lot of GMO already in Brazil in sugarcane, maybe 30, 40%. Then we are just starting now, and the results, they are better. It's amazing because the sugarcane, it was the less fighting. They allowed to use the GMO in soybean, in corn, in cotton, but not in sugarcane. Then we have the same trouble here as we have in Japan, but we got the authorization. Then we are changing, because when you got the authorization from the government, it's not immediately you change. You need sometimes years to change from the classical agriculture to the GMO agriculture. Then we are starting now in sugarcane. By the results, they are the same. And until now, the number is around 30-40% less cost of the pesticides using GMO sugarcane.
わかりました。ありがとうございます。じゃあ、そろそろ最後の質問にしたいんですが、アントニオと僕の共通点が一個あって、すごくお互い農家なんだけど、あなたもすごいインフルエンサーだと、ブラジルで。あなたは農業経営だけじゃなくて、常に SNS で発信し続けてると。農業の現実を。で、あなたの発信するっていう原動力になってるのは何なんでしょうかと、大元は。すごい大変なんでね、発信するっていうことは常に。
For example, now I'm finished this interview here. I'm taking an airplane. I'm going to the north part of Brazil. I am speaking in 7 cities. The next 7 days, I'm speaking in 7 universities, talking about this. We have a very old saying here in Brazil. Say, how can I say? If I deserve to have something, I should defend this thing. If I don't defend something, for example, my farm, I don't deserve to have my farm, to be the owner of my farm. This is one of the things that it's really important. And the big fight in here in Brazil is for the young generation and the schools, because the most part of the professors, the teacher, they don't know about agriculture, and every day in a classroom, they are talking something wrong about the agriculture. It's really important to convince the young generation about the GMO, the new technologies about agriculture. And always I think something like this. If you, as a farmer or as a technician or as a teacher, it doesn't matter what's your profession, but if you don't tell your history, someone tell your history for one, then it's important that the farm, me and Swishi as a farmer, we should tell our history, because if you don't do this, someone will tell our history with your perspective, with your worldview, and sometimes they are telling a wrong history about us. Then if there are someone to tell about what is the real history of the farmers, should be us as a farmers.
Wow, thank you so much. アントニオ、本当に今日は忙しい中、ありがとうございます。今日のあなたのプレゼンテーションと、このインタビューをですね、非常に 日本の農業界に非常にポジティブなインパクトをやっぱりもたらすコンテンツになると思います。本当に改めて感謝しますし、あなたの行動やアクションから僕もすごく勇気づけられました。本当にありがと
Thank you very much. Thank you, Suishi, for this invitation. It was a great pleasure for me. And I have a suggestion for you. Maybe next time you should make a new song about GMO. Why not?
Yes, I will try.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Safe travel. Right. はい、というわけでですね、アントニオとの対談動画を見ていただきましたが、どうでしたでしょうか。本当にね、やはりこうスケール感の大きなですね、農業経営者だなっていうのを改めて感じますし、日本の土地量型農業においてもですね、これから本当に変革期を迎える中で、ああいうですねスケールの大きなビジョンを持ったですね、やっぱり農業経営者の台頭がですね、これから求められてくる時代になると思ってます。なんでそういったですね、これから未来を担う日本の農業経営者にもですね、伝わる内容になったんじゃないかと思っております。なので私も今年は新たに基盤整備含めていろいろな挑戦をしていきますがですね、やっぱりね、俺もね、ビッグな農家目指して頑張りたいなと改めて思った次第でございます。というわけで皆さん、今年1年またトゥリー&ノーフチャンネルどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。それではまたお会いしましょう。